All right, let's talk about multiplying polynomials. So here I've got one problem for us to go over. So I'm multiplying a linear term, which is just a term that has an x to the first times a quadratic term, or a quadratic polynomial, which is a polynomial that has an x squared term, right? And so while this may look a little bit complicated, what it really is the same thing as when we used to do, for example, something like x plus 2 times x minus 3. And you'll recall that all we do is double distribute. So x times x times negative 3, 2 times x, 2 times negative 3. And you may have called that FOIL, first, inner, outer, last. Well, in this case, we also kind of have a middle term, so maybe not quite FOIL. Maybe it's a slightly more complicated, but the idea remains the same, where we have to distribute 6x times every term in that second polynomial, and then negative 8 times every term in that second polynomial. And then we'll try to combine like terms and get down to a simplified version of our polynomial, right? So first thing we want to do is let's start out by multiplying 6x by the x squared. We'll start with our first terms. So 6x times x squared, the coefficients multiply, so 6 times 1 gives us 6, and x times x squared, those powers add, which will give us x cubed. Okay, now I'm going to move on to 6x times 3x. So remember, the coefficients multiply. 6 times 3 is 18. They're both positive, so it would be positive 18, and then x times x, that's x to the first times x to the first, and those powers add, which will give us x squared. All right, last one with 6x. We've got 6x times negative 6. Well, negative 6 times 6 is negative 36. And then we've got x to the first times no x's. So we are just stuck with that x. So minus 36x. Right? So we've multiplied 6x by all three terms in the second polynomial. Now we want to do the same with our, let's see here. We want to do the same with our negative 8. So we'll first start with negative 8 times x squared. So that coefficient on the x squared is 1. 1 times negative 8 is just negative 8. And then no x times x squared. Well, it's just going to stay x squared, so I've got negative 8x squared. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to line that up underneath the 18x squared, so that when I combine like terms, all I have to do is add down from top to bottom. Okay? Now, next one we want to look at, negative 8 times 3x. Negative 8 times 3 is negative 24, and then we're just stuck with that x, which is negative 24x. And our last one that we'll do will be negative 8 times negative 6. Well, the negatives cancel out, negative times negative, right? So it becomes a positive, and then 8 times 6 is 48, right? So now all we have to do is add down, right? So where previously we would have had maybe 4 terms and then we're combining like terms, now we have 6 terms and we're combining like terms. Okay, so I've got 6x cubed plus nothing, so that just stays 6x cubed. 18x squared minus 8x squared is going to leave us with 10x squared. Negative 36x minus 24 is going to be negative 60x. So hopefully you guys are noticing that when we combine like terms, the powers of x don't change, but when we multiply, those powers add. And lastly there, I've got nothing plus 48. Well, that's just 48. Oops. sorry, I forgot to change pen colors, plus 48. And so my simplified polynomials being multiplied together is 6x cubed plus 10x squared minus 60x plus 48. And so you'll notice that our degree of x went up by 1 from our largest previously being x squared. Hopefully you'll also notice that it is in standard form. So we've got x cubed, then x squared, then x, then our constant term. And if we wanted to look at the degree, this would be a third degree function with a leading coefficient of 6. So just a little recall memory there. Okay.